Hey everyone, this is Austin Schur here with We Write About Music, and today we're lucky enough to have Julien Barbagallo on. He's all set to release his fourth studio album titled Les Grands Brûlés on May 14th. I've listened, it's amazing, and I can't wait to hear all about it. Julien, thank you so much for coming on today. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. What part of the world are you in right now?
I am based in Queensland, in Australia.
Oh, very nice.
So that's
And
the east coast.
awesome, man. Well, obviously, I want to spend this time talking about the album. I've listened to it in full already. It's amazing. But so far, there have been three singles released so far. The most recent release was Regard, which is also the opening track. And I think, honestly, kind of like the perfect introduction to the album. It's got so many fun elements to it, but the production is what has stood out the most to me. Would you mind kind of explaining how you sort of put it all together?
Look, it started, that particular song actually started with the idea to use that you can hear a crackling sound of vinyl at the beginning, which is
Hmm.
actually a loop I made out of an actual vinyl, because at the end of a side, when the last song of the side stopped, the vinyl keeps going around, and then there's this weird rhythm, like a
Hmm.
crackling rhythm that goes on and on forever. I think it's called like a locked groove or a
Yeah,
run out
Locked
groove,
Groove.
something like that. Locked groove, yeah.
Yeah.
So I looked that, and I thought it was really interesting. It was a really interesting pattern to start a song with and to build on top of it. And so that was the start of the idea. It was actually suggested by my mate Benjamin, who's also part of my record label. And also I decided for those four opening songs not to use at all my guitar, because usually all my albums
Hmm.
I write the songs on my guitar, acoustic guitar, and there's always acoustic guitar on my songs. And for once I decided not to use a guitar and to go full other stuff, mainly synth, actually.
Right. Well, I mean, it turned out fantastic. I think for those that have listened to it already, I'm sure they're loving it. The thing is, though, is unfortunately, I don't speak French, but I wish
Mhm.
I did. So I'm going to ask, would you mind sort of breaking down the lyrics and themes and the messages of what you're trying to get across on this album for the non-French speakers out there?
Oh wow! It's There's a lot of subjects. There's a lot of different stories. Regard in particular is a story of it's about two people meeting and trying to forget about all they heard about each other respectively before they met, because people would tell them stuff about the other person before they met that person. And so they're trying to meet on a different level, above all prejudices. And so it's kind of a song about trying to connect on a very pure level, away from all what um, makes us biased when we
Right.
meet people. Mm.
Is that sort of like the all-encompassing message on the album or just that song specifically?
No, no, really. From one song to another, I go and explore different subjects.
Hmm.
Sometimes, to be honest, the subject kind of reveal itself a bit later, because
Hmm.
I'm not really starting a song thinking, "Oh yeah, that's what I'm gonna talk about. This
Gotcha.
is this is important. I wanna nail it." Sometimes, as I write the lyrics, because I tend to have a very um, poetic approach to my writing,
Yeah,
which in my case, it means that I like working with images. For example,
sure.
I'm going to have an image in my mind, and I'm going to try and translate that into words. So it's not necessarily a subject that I start with, but maybe an image. And then the subject maybe appears a bit later down the track. Sometimes it never appears at all to my own mind,
Yeah.
or it going to be people who are going to be like, oh, that's a song about this and that. I'm like,
Sure.
oh, it is actually. So
nice. And I like that a lot. That's really cool.
sorry,
no, it's okay.
It's nice for an answer, but
it's complicated.
No,
there's no right answers.
No, yeah, right. But there are like a song, for example, like the song called Michael on the album is a song I knew, for example, with that one where I was going to go. It's about that guy who was hanging out at the same dog park as me, and we were kind of having this dog park relationship, which is based on the dogs and not really on the humans. So you never really know. Yeah. You don't know much about the owners, but you know a lot about the dogs. But one day the guy just vanished, wasn't there anymore, and I started wondering what happened to him, because he was quite an odd character. And so I started to imagine where the guy could be, and that's the song.
That's fantastic. That's really cool, actually. I need to talk about the instrumentation on this record, though, because it's incredibly diverse. There's so much going on from song to song. And I know that you're a multi-instrumentalist. Is it all you on this record, or did you get any outside help with certain elements on it?
No, it's mainly me. I've got a friend from my previous band called Aqua Surge, my friend Benjamin, who did a couple of backing vocals. I've got a friend Judith who talked on one of the songs, but like instrumentally, it's all me. Yeah.
That's incredibly impressive, I gotta say, because really there's just so much going on. The fact that one person can make all those sounds, like, congrats to you.
Computers now.
I know, but still, it's not just the computers. It's managing to take it and put it all together and make it sound good. You know what I mean? I know nothing about it. I just like listening to it. So
it's a journey. It's a journey, and I guess for me, actually, because along my career, I mainly played with people, with other people in bands and things like that, and I created with other people a lot of the time. So now when I do music on my own, I'm trying to make it sound like it's not just one guy putting layers on top of each other. I'm trying to make it sound like that could be a bunch of dudes or dudettes doing music, together.
Sure.
So it's not always obvious, but that's my goal a little bit in terms of.
I get that.
In production.
So I'd love to know, who are some of the artists or musicians or bands that you were listening to help sort of inspire this sound?
Yeah, it's always hard to be aware of who and what exactly inspires you as you go in your creative process, because sometimes it's something a bit in the back of your mind that you can't really put your finger on. But I mean, for example, the song "Regarde" is a song that the time signature is 7/8, so it's not the most common time signature.
Right.
A little bit of a weird groove, and that, for example, could come from my love for bands like Genesis or Yes, like that I used to listen to a bit earlier in my life, and that's probably where it comes from. Then obviously I've got like I'm hugely inspired by bands like the Flaming Lips when it comes to synth and epicness. But also I'm trying to go through the songs. There's like also talking about Michael, that's more like a 60s approach. Maybe something more like Neil Young and the Crazy Horse, this kind of vibe, a bit dusty and and rough, you know.
Sure. It's tough because it's like you listen to music in your free time, but you don't want that music to totally impart the sound on what you're making, because what you're making, you still want to sound different. So try not to let it affect it, I
Yeah,
suppose.
it's so hard anyway. But I mean,
Yeah.
first of all, you have access nowadays to so much music,
Yeah,
and there's so
everything.
much music going on. Yeah, and well, personally, I'm not a huge listener. I
Mm-hmm.
don't listen to a lot of music, but I don't know if it makes a difference at the end of the day, because um, when you end up like starting a creative process, it's mostly about what you have in your inside yourself, really.
Right.
And yes, you can be influenced by what you've been listening to 20 years ago or 20 minutes ago, but at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, your inner vision is gonna take over everything. It's gonna trump everything, hopefully.
Exactly. Right, exactly. So you've been involved in music for quite a while now. I know you've been parts of bands for a long time. As a musician, though, were there any specific albums in your life that inspired you to take this creative path, or did you always know that you wanted to, not have a normal 9 to 5 office job?
Yeah, I think that was always what I wanted to do. No, it's true
Sure.
because
No, I get it.
I started playing music. I started learning music when I was 7, and
Hmm.
I played my first gigs when I was around 10. So by the time I was, 18, when it's time to go to university and stuff like
Hmm.
that, I had already like almost a decade of music in, in me, in my,
Yeah.
in the way I was seeing life. So for me, it was completely natural and to follow that path, really. Yeah.
Right. Well, that makes sense. And so, the obvious question sort of comes now. I know that touring for this record is probably up in the air at the moment, all things considered, with, how the world is. But is there a possibility that someday in the future we could see this album being toured?
Look, anything is possible, really. But
That's true.
the thing is, um, if hopefully things pick up regarding international touring, etc., I'm
Sure.
probably going to be very busy with Tame Impala. So that's going to leave very little space for my solo
Yeah.
project to be toured and to be showed on stage. But you never know.
You
I
never know.
managed in the past to organize solo tours
Hmm.
in between Tame Impala tours. So it can happen again, but
Oh,
not
cool.
probably in a little while.
Right. It would be cool if you could play, like, for example, like festival shows. If Tame plays at night, you could play like the morning spot, you know what I mean? Get all warmed up, and then the real fans
it'll,
show up in the morning.
it'll be fun. Yeah, it's getting hard logistically to do that, but
Oh, I'm sure it's
it'll
impossible.
be fun.
That would be
Yeah.
cool. And so, as far as being a musician goes, and especially someone in your situation, you're in this really interesting position. You've played some of the biggest music venues on planet Earth in front of huge audiences. But then, when you have done these solo tours, you've also been in smaller venues. What is it that you enjoy about both, and what are some of the differences?
Um, yeah. To me, they both great experiences. Like
Right.
I love the big venues for the incredible vibe that it creates when you
Yeah.
put that many people in the same place, in the same
Right.
room. That's something very special, and also because we are very lucky to play iconic venues like I mean there are many of them, but like
Sure.
on top of my head, we were playing the Madison Square Garden in New York last time we
Mhm.
were there. And as as a musician, it's kind of it's venues you hear about like your whole life, and
Right.
your favorite band play there or whatever, you
Mhm.
know the play, and one day it's you on stage, and it's incredibly special to go through the mirror, you know, on the other side of the on the mirror. And the smaller venues are just incredible in terms of connection with the audience.
Sure.
And how you learn your craft, really, because the smaller the venue is, I feel the more exposed you are, and the less mistakes you want to make, because they're going to be so obvious.
Right.
You're under a microscope, and you want to be like 100%
totally
nailing it, where maybe in bigger shows you have a bit of smoke and lights to create a bit of diversion. When
if you miss a drum fill, no one's going to notice, but if you're in a venue of 100 people, someone's going to see you screw up. Like, I get that. So it seems like there'd be a lot more pressure almost in a smaller venue with those eyes on you.
Yeah, it feels like that.
Yeah. Well, so it's been a couple weeks at this point, but I've just got to congratulate you on the fantastic job that you and the boys did for the Innerspeaker live stream. Seriously, it made my month getting to watch that. Like, what an amazing experience. I'd love to know how much preparation there was on your end to sort of get the drumming down on those tracks that aren't regularly played.
Look, it's a very interesting job to try and recreate the drumming of Kevin. Innerspeaker, it's the same with all the albums, actually, because he has this very iconic, very particular patterns he uses, and he creates those very immediately recognizable grooves. So there's I've got to stick to it a lot, as much as I can, because people expect that. But also on the other hand, I've got lots of freedom when it comes to certain part of the song where there's going to be some feels where I can just be myself, and I mean, that's not that I'm not myself the rest of the time, but there's more room for interpretation. But the good thing is that Kev and we have a very similar type of drumming. So for me, since day one, since I started working with him, it was a real pleasure, because I felt so at home with the drumming he was expecting me to perform on this song. So yeah, it's great. As a drummer, I couldn't have dreamt of a better music to drum along to.
I would say pretty exciting for the most part, considering that, you know, for Kevin, like, his main instrument is the drums, and that you're sort of filling in for that spot. Is he coaching you or teaching you specifics on certain tracks? Like, is he sitting with you making it work?
Yeah, always. When he thinks it's not the right, the right groove, or when he thinks that feels needs to be exactly the same, he's gonna tell me, and we're gonna work on it. No worries. So there's like quite a constant back and forth between him and I when it comes to drumming, and it's so far. I think he's happy. Yeah, we've been.
I mean, yeah, you got the job, so it's kept you employed, I'm sure. So I would say, yeah, from my perspective, you've done a fantastic job. So you've got my vote of confidence. Kind of the follow-up to that, though, is there a specific Tame song that is either the most difficult to play live, or that you sort of get a little nervous before you're about to play it?
It's hard to say. I know that with the last album, The Slow Rush, there was songs where, like, for example, Lost in Yesterday, maybe there's like those patterns are extremely intricate, because he built them. I mean, he played the elements himself, but then he rearranged them on a computer, so it forms sometimes things that are kind of humanly impossible to play. So you have
sure. For robots, so I get that.
Yeah, so you have to take that and go through the human filter and be like, okay, so what can I do with my two hands and my 2 feet that can be as close as possible to
Exactly.
the recording. So it's quite challenging, but it's very interesting, obviously. And yeah, it's good.
Sure. Yeah, no, I
Good to,
feel like Ender's like would also be a very difficult with the opening, like the full intro, because it's basically like drum led for the most part. Those
yeah.
two seem like they would be overly difficult.
When you start thinking about it, you realize that pretty much all his songs are drum led. When
Yeah,
you because somehow yeah, that's how I think he's so obsessed with the in a good way with the drums and the grooves and the patterns, and so yeah, it's always a little bit of pressure or a lot of pressure,
I'm
because
sure of it though.
you know that's something he's gonna keep a very close ear on.
Yeah, I mean, being a drummer first, it feels like that's how the songs would come, or that's how they would be led. So that sort of makes sense.
But to me, it's like gold. I just love it. It's never
Yeah,
boring.
for you, it must be a challenge though, because one, like, it's difficult to pull off, but at the same time, like, I don't know, you don't want to overextend yourself, especially like on the robotic drumming. If things are humanly impossible and you've only got so many limbs to make it work, then,
Mhm.
you figure it out.
Yeah. But I mean, I love the challenge. Yeah,
Of
definitely.
course, yeah. Like I said, you're doing a great job. I've seen it happen enough times live to never be
Yeah.
disappointed. Oh yeah, absolutely. Um, that's awesome. So I want to know, we're about a third of the way into this year already, or a little over a third of the way, which is hard to believe and even to say
I
out
know.
loud. But what are some, yeah, you're about to drop this album, but what are like some musical or non-musical goals that you've set for yourself for the rest of this year?
Look, I've got a son who's gonna arrive on June, so that's gonna be
Wow, congratulations
gonna
in
be fun.
advance. That's amazing.
Thank you. So that's gonna take a lot of my time and yeah, and energy.
I'd
But
say probably for
then
the rest of the year. Yeah, at least.
but also yeah, hopefully touring will resume
Yeah.
with Tame, and that's going to take also quite a lot of time.
Hmm.
And on the personal side, I've got another project that I've been working on with a French singer who's called Baptiste W. Hamon.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to say in French, Baptiste W. Hamon, and we did that split album together. He lives in Paris, in France, and I live
Okay.
here in Australia. So I produced the album. He was sending me those demos, and I was just like producing the songs and yeah, writing arrangements and stuff like that. I would send that back to him, and he would sing on top of it, and I would, etc., etc. And we did that for a little while, and we have a little album coming out in September. So that's another.
Very cool. Keep an eye on that for sure.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I've only got a couple more questions for you at this point. I just want to thank you for your time in advance.
No
But okay,
worries.
so sort of the mission behind We Write About Music is we like to shine the light on independent artists, people that either aren't, people that should be heard who are not getting enough attention for the music they made. So I'm really happy that you just, shouted out the person that you're making an album with. But are there any other artists that you enjoy listening to or that you'd like to sort of give the shout out to for everyone else to check out?
Yeah, but there's many of them. On top of my head, I'm thinking about this because it's also interesting that he's Italian. His name is Giorgio Poi,
Okay.
Poi Poi, and Giorgio like George in Italian. And
Sure.
I discovered him through Phoenix, the French band,
Yeah.
and he used to tour with them, and he was opening for them for a while. And he has, I think, 2 studio albums so far. And
Okay.
yeah, I just love them. And also because I'm half Italian, I really enjoy
Sure.
listening to indie music in Italian, because there's like a really interesting scene in Italy, but weirdly enough, I guess it's the language thing also, but it doesn't really go outside the country much. But yeah.
Nice. Okay, well, I'll definitely make sure to check him out. Thanks for shouting him out. Okay, so my last question for you here, and this is usually how I like to wrap things up with the artists that I get to talk to, but for the person who's going to discover you from watching this chat, what is a message that you would like to pass off to the first-time listener?
I would say, if he's a non-French speaking person, or she, I would tell them just embrace the melodies and let yourself float into the song. Yeah,
I love that.
Songs.
Well, as a non-French speaker, that's how I approached it, and I ended up loving it, and I'm sure everyone else will. Awesome. Well, Julien, I really cannot thank you enough for taking the time to speak. You don't know how much it means as a long time fan of everything that you've done. This has been an absolute pleasure. For everyone else out there, though,
thank you very much.
For everyone else out there, Les Grands Brûlés is out on May 14th. Listen to it, check it out, follow along with it, and just enjoy it. It's a really spectacular record.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much, Julien. I hope to speak again soon. And if not, we'll definitely be checking you at a show in the coming months.
Cool.
Awesome, man. Take care and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.